Hey there guys, gals, and non-binary pals, GM Potter here. Welcome to my channel where I talk about books and bookish things. I upload on Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon Central Time. And today I thought we would go over a semi-new release, and that is The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. Let's get into it. Okay, so this book came out on July 15th of this year, 2025, and it follows three different timelines. 1908 in Mexico with the character of Alba, 1934 in New England, just outside of Boston with Beatrice Tremblay, and 1998 New England, just outside of Boston, the same college, with Minerva, who is Alba's great-granddaughter. So let's start with the Goodreads blurb. Three women in three different eras encounter danger and witchcraft in this eerie, multi-generational horror saga from New York Times bestselling author of Mexican Gothic. Back then, when I was a young woman, there were still witches. That was how Nana Alba always began the stories she told her great-granddaughter, Minerva. Stories that have stayed with Minerva all her life. Perhaps that's why Minerva became a graduate student focused on the history of horror literature and researching the life of Beatrice Tremblay, an obscure author of macabre tales. In the course of assembling her thesis, Minerva encounters information that reveals that Tremblay's most famous novel, The Vanishing, was inspired by a true story. Decades earlier, during the Great Depression, Tremblay attended the same university where Minerva is now studying and became obsessed with her beautiful and otherworldly roommate, who then disappeared under mysterious circumstances. As Minerva descends ever deeper into Tremblay's manuscript, she begins to sense that the malign force that stalked Tremblay and the missing girl might still walk the halls of the campus. These disturbing events also echo the stories Nana Alba told about her girlhood in 1900s Mexico, where she had a terrifying encounter with a witch. Minerva suspects that the same shadow that darkened the lives of her great-grandmother and Beatrice Tremblay is now threatening her own in 1990s Massachusetts. An academic career can be a public punishing pursuit, but might turn outright deadly when witchcraft is involved. Oh my goodness, this book. So if you've watched the videos immediately previous to this one, I was in a bit of a reading slump. I was reading some real clunkers when it comes to literature and to books, and was just not having a good time with the books I'd been reading. And I opened this book, and it's like Silvia Moreno-Garcia writes horror novels. They're not always like super dark and terrifying horror novels. I'd call them light horror novels. Like, I guess if we were talking medication, they would be mild to moderate horror. But they feel like a warm hug at the same time, because she writes such beautiful, wonderful, well-deserved endings that I can't help but feel the love and the joy of her craftsmanship in the writing. And she has, I love Stephen King. I really do. I love his writing. But he kind of whiffs it on the ending sometimes. And this one gets the ending down absolutely perfect. So this book is told, it's got the 3 points of view and the 3 timelines, and it's told third person limited for 2 of them, for the 1908 and 1999 timelines. And then in the 1934, we're actually reading Beatrice Tremblay's unpublished manuscript recounting the disappearance of her friend Virginia Somerset. And I have, early on in my notes, I have, are there actually witches, or is it coincidence, superstition? And then I have a little bit further down in my notes, I have, nope, witches. Which is absolutely great that she was able to build it in such a way that all the clues are there who the witch is, because they're hiding in plain sight. Like, we're introduced to the witches very early on, to these evil, dark witches, and it's just, she does in less than 400 pages what other authors can't do in 600. Like, this book is only 357 pages in a hardcover, and it crafts this beautiful, fantastic, otherworldly story set in the real world in real places. And she does it in such a mind-bogglingly beautiful way that it just makes me happy to read. Like, I was on the edge of my seat. It did take a little bit to get into. It took about 3 chapters to get into the rhythm of the storytelling and find my way into the storytelling. It wasn't as easy as, say, Mexican Gothic, which transports you right away, or Gods of Jade and Shadow, which immediately transfixed me. But after I gave it 3 chapters, and by the end of the 3rd chapter, I was hooked. And then I read this one. It took me a couple of days to get through the first 3 chapters. It was a little bit of a slog, I will say that. But once I got through the end of the 3rd chapter, I just devoured this book. And part of, I think, why I had trouble getting into it is because I was in a little bit of a reading slump. And this book, if you're looking for a horror novel that's set in the summertime, like, not enough horror novels are set in the summertime. Like, we get fall and we get winter novels. Like, I get it, the sun's going away, it's getting darker. But this one is, the 1998 storyline at least, is set in the summer. It's set over summer break. The 1934 storyline is set in the fall and winter. 1908 storyline, I believe, is set in the summer as well. So the majority of it is set in the summer. But it's utterly fantastic, and it leaves questions in the story, like in the ending. It leaves a couple of threads loose in such a way that it's not frustrating to read. It's a very satisfying what if, like, that makes you keep thinking about this book after you finish it and closed it and put it on your trophy shelf. And this book I did buy blind. Like, I saw that Silvia Moreno-Garcia had a new book coming out, and so I pre-ordered it, and not knowing anything about it other than the title and the beautiful cover. And this is a beautiful cover. Like, I wish the rest of the book was as pretty. Like, it's just green when you take the dust jacket off, and it's just utterly delightful. My favorite character was probably Minerva, but my favorite part of it is Alba's victory towards the end of the book. She's so cunning and so brave, and, like, she does something. Okay, trigger warning if you're going to read the book is for incest. That is a storyline that happens in the 1908 storyline. It is resolved in a satisfying way. It's just something that the reader should be aware of, and there wasn't a trigger warning or a dear reader note on this one. And I think it should have been there, because that can bother some people. That can open old wounds for people. I think even if you're going to write about dark and troubling topics, you should make the reader aware that it's going to be broached in some way. That does give way to spoilers, but a little bit. But I think it bears saying that is something that comes up in the book. And it's just utterly beautiful. And there's this moment in the 1908 storyline where you're like, okay, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. And then the ground just opens up and it swallows you whole, and you're in the belly of the beast and you have no idea what's going on. And I knew who the witch was. Like, I had my suspicions who 2 of the witches were from the very beginning. I'm like, okay, it's probably these 2 characters because you're not supposed to suspect them. And I was right. But at the same time, it was my stomach dropped when they were revealed, because I didn't want to be right. Some people put in their reviews of this book, in some of the 1-star reviews, I didn't finish this because I figured out who the bad guys were all along. And I'm like, yes, but it's not a mystery. Like, you can figure out who the bad guy is and still watch the hero figure it out in a satisfying way. It's that well written, I feel. The ending, Silvia Moreno-Garcia is a firm believer in happily ever afters to an extent that you get in horror. Like, the ending was so good. It was so good. That being said, this book is, of course, 5 stars from me. It's not a perfect book. There are some things I would change, but they're very surface level. And I don't believe that any book is perfect. Even my favorite book, Mansfield Park, is not a perfect book. There are some things I would change, some things I would elaborate on were I writing it, but I still think it's a great book. It's a book that I want a trophy copy for. Had I listened to this on Libby, I would go out and buy a trophy copy. And for me, that's what makes a 5-star book, is that it's one that you don't necessarily need to return to the world, but on some level you want to return to this world. And coming back to this book in a couple years, I think will be like stepping into a friend's house. Like it is a horror novel, and if you've been around this channel, you know that horror is kind of my safe space. But this book was so good and so well written. I implore you to read this book. I won't say that you're missing out for not having read this book, but I will say if you choose to read this book, you are in for a treat. Have you read The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno-Garcia? Have you read any of her other books? I'm reading her new releases and working my way through her back catalog. The next one that I'm reading from her will be Signal to Noise, which is one of her back catalog books. And I am very much looking forward to that. I just saw, at the bookstore. I'm like, one I haven't read. Yoink. And so, have you read any of her books? Have you read Gods of Jade and Shadow? That one is the one I read of hers right before this one, and it was so good. The ending, the agency of the character in her ending was so, so good. And I love that she gives, like, she's a believer in the strong female character in such a way that it's not like, I'm a strong female character because I punch the bad guys. Like, she's a strong female character because she has agency and control of her own destiny. And I really, really like that. So, like I said, have you read The Bewitching? Have you read any other Silvia Moreno-Garcia? Please tell me in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.